Assalamualaikum to Sir Azam. I am Sarah Ashley and I'll be starting off the presentation with the explanation about accounting fraud. Accounting fraud is a major issue that has devastated many small, medium, and large companies. It is when a company purposely falsifies its financial statements or tax returns to appear more financially sound than it actually is. There are so many situations involving accounting fraud, including overstating revenue, understating revenue, and also overstating assets. For instance, a company may overstate revenue by keeping its books open for several days after the end of the month in order to record additional sales transactions in the prior month. On top of that, the real-world example of accounting fraud can be seen from the Enron scandal, where Enron used of balance sheets entities to hide its debts from investors and creditors. The effects of accounting fraud are not just on the stakeholders of a particular company, but also other companies. Therefore, there are a few ways to prevent this accounting fraud. First is by implementing strong internal controls like segregating duties, using security measures, and regularly reconciling with external sources to prevent fraud and ensure alignment with bank statements. Next is by having an accounting software that reduces exposure to unauthorized transactions, by automating accounting procedures and implementing strict approval procedures.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ahmad Iqbal bin Ismail and my ID number is 62213223-179. So thank you so much Sarah Ashley for explaining the accounting fraud. Now we move on to the tone at the top of this Lehman Brothers company. So first is the risk appetite and culture. The culture that prioritizes short-term profit and aggressive risk-taking, the tone set by senior management emphasize growth and expansion, often at the expense of prudent risk management practices. This culture permeates throughout the organization, encouraging excessive risk-taking and creating an environment where concerns about risk were downplayed or ignored. Next is the lack of accountability. Decisions were made without fully understanding or adequately mitigating the associated risk. When problems arose, there was a tendency to deflect blame or minimize the seriousness of the situation rather than take responsibility and address underlying issues. Next is the communication and transparency. Creating information about the company through financial condition was often obscure or inadequately disclosed to investors, regulators, and even internal stakeholders. So now we move on to the asymmetric information. So in the Lehman Brothers, the asymmetric information is related to the case of Repo 105. So the situation is Lehman Brothers classified short-term loans as a sales using Repo 105. It is a buyback agreement that allows firms to borrow other businesses' excess cash for a short time in exchange for collateral. This will make temporarily lower liabilities for the purpose of financial reporting. The revenues and the sales are used to pay down loans, which enable the firm to reduce its debt. So in this asymmetric information happened when external users believe that Lehman Brothers financial disclosure show less debt. This will give a possibility for foreign investors to participate in the Lehman Brothers enterprise, despite having been misled. So now we move on to the failure and responsibility of board of directors. So the failure became a problem when the directors not exercise sufficient oversight. Board members were often missing during meetings, and when they did attend, they failed to provide challenging questions or to oppose the choice that were being made by management. As a consequence of this, the board of directors was basically asleep at the wheel, which enabled Lehman Brothers to engage in reckless behavior that eventually resulted in the destruction of the company. Next is the existence of conflicts of interest. Board members had strong affiliation with the company management or significant owners, making it difficult for them to exercise impartiality. One member of the board had been the CEO of well-known Lehman Brothers client in the past, and another member of the board had a direct family link with the company through their son's employment. And lastly, the failure is deficiency in effective communication. Board members often lack information on crucial choice made by management. There was a notable absence of openness regarding the company financial status. This hindered the board ability to make well-informed choice on the company strategy and risk management. So furthermore, it's about the human biasness and personal interest in Lehman Brothers. So Lehman Brothers worker does not provide assurance that they would prioritize the company's best interest and properly mitigate its risks. Lehman has been established as a partnership business. The general partner would have opposed the excessive risk, given that workers and executives prioritize their own interests, particularly in terms of performance-based remuneration. Directors are not completely committed to their duties. They may prioritize their own interests above those of the shareholders. Directors' personal interests are closer to executives than shareholders, since executives want to keep their jobs. After being hired, a director bonds with the executive he oversees than shareholders who elect them. So next is about fiduciary duty of the board of directors. So directors have a responsibility to act in a good faith and disclose any information that is significant to them. In the past year, preceding up to collapse of Lehman Brothers, there were changes that the board of directors failed to report the company financial status and risk exposure in a sufficient manner. Directors are required to make choice based on accurate information and to use reasonable judgment in order to serve company best interests. In the case of Lehman Brothers, there were issues over whether or not the board of directors had an appropriate understanding of the risks were linked with the company's substantial investment in mortgage-backed securities and other complicated financial instruments.
Lehman Brothers was one of the biggest investment banks globally. However, the bank declared bankruptcy in September 2008, which sparked a global financial crisis. Lehman Brothers used Repo 105 transactions to temporarily remove assets of their balance sheet in order to inflate the appearance of their financial position, particularly during quarterly reporting periods. Lehman Brothers was able to lower its debt-to-equity ratio and remove the assets from their balance sheet by categorizing these transactions as sales rather than loans. The use of Repo 105 allowed Lehman Brothers to conceal its true leverage ratios, which made it appear less risky than it actually was, and to present the authorities as well as the investors with a more positive financial picture. This made it possible for the company to take on more debt and make riskier investments, which ultimately led to its collapse. On top of that, a $4 billion profit was reported by Lehman Brothers in 2007 as a result of the subprime mortgage scandals driving up demand for house mortgage. Their ability to eliminate risk was what allowed them to trade bundles of these loans for real money with other institutional banks. In the case of Lehman Brothers, the most well-known whistleblower is Matthew Liu, which is the former senior vice president in the company's finance division. In 2008, Lee had voiced concern to Lehman's auditor, which is Ernst & Young, regarding the company's accounting practices and financial health. Lee highlighted the controversial Repo 105 transactions that artificially boosted Lehman's balance sheet by $50 billion. David Lee then was fired by Ernst & Young in 2008 when he alerted the company to attempts to conceal real dangers on its records. Lee faced retaliation and lost his position at Lehman Brothers despite his attempts to expose wrongdoings at the company. That's all from me. I will pass next to Ahmad Ikwan to explain more. Thank you.
So thank you, Sarah Ashley, for the explanation. Now we move on to the pressure, opportunity, and rationalization of Lehman Brothers. Lehman Brothers was under pressure, which may alter its decision and behavior before bankruptcy. Market stress Lehman faced strong competition in the banking business and was under pressure to maintain earning money and market share This pressure may have led the corporation to take greater risks to gain more money. Next, money stress Lehman debt-heavy business strategy rendered invulnerable to cash flow issues and market downturns. Lehman struggled to pay its financial obligation as the subprime mortgage crisis worsened and its mortgage-related asset lost value. Finally, senior management and owner may have demanded growth and profit targets. This may have driven individuals to prioritize short-term gains above long-term sustainability. Next is about the opportunity. So an opportunity, Lehman Brothers is to commit crimes due to internal system, government oversight and market condition. First is about the poor risk management. Lehman took on too much debt and invest in risky assets without adequate control or safeguard due to poor risk management. Second, accounting procedure. Lehman Brothers employ accounting methods to temporarily disguise in debt and leverage, allowing it to manipulate its finance. The regulatory environment is the third. The financial business were poorly regulated before the financial catastrophe. This allowed Lehman to take risks without consequence or scrutiny. And final is about rationalization. Some Lehman Brothers employees may have justified unlawful activity as less detrimental than it was. First is risk-taking reasons. Executive and staff may have justified their excessive risk-taking by emphasizing the advantage and downplaying the risk. Second is normalizing deviation. Over time, Lehman's culture may have normalized unlawful or risky activity, making it easier to claim that acts were in accordance with corporate values. Last, there's conformity pressure. Lehman employees may have felt pushed to act like their finance sector colleagues. This may have led individuals to explain their conduct as competitive. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, now I'm gonna explain about the consequences, effects, penalty imposed for the auditors, company, board of directors, and shareholders. Okay, now we move to the auditors. The first one is the fallout. Consequences for auditors in the Lehman Brothers collapse. The spectacular collapse of Lehman Brothers in 2008 sent shockwave through the financial system. While the blame for the investment bank's demise was multifaceted, the role of its auditors, Ernst & Young, EY, came under instant scrutiny. While EY escaped major public penalties, the repercussions for the accounting professions were significant. The consequences the Lehman case had on EY and the wider auditing industry. Okay, next is reputational tarnish. The stay on the watchdog image. Perhaps the most immediate consequences for EY was the reputational damage it suffered. Lehman's accounting practices, which EY signed off on, were revealed to be riddled with complex financial instruments and off-balance sheet entities. The association with an accounting scandal of such magnitude tarnished EY's reputation and eroded investor confidence in their ability to provide accurate and unbiased audits. Okay, next is policy shift. Reshaping the regulatory landscape, the Lehman case undeniably played a role in shaping the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act, a landmark piece of legislation passed in 2010. This act aimed to prevent future financial crises by strengthening regulation across the financial sector. One key provision of the Act increased the authority of the PCAOB, granting it greater power to oversee and dispute audit firms. Additionally, the Act mandated increased auditor independence, aiming to reduce conflicts of interest and ensure objectivity in the auditing process. Okay, now we move to the company. The first one is financial devastation. A house of cards. The most immediate consequences for Lehman Brothers was the complete financial ruin it faced. The company's overexposure to risky subprime mortgages and complex financial instruments like mortgage-backed securities proved disastrous. As the housing market falters, The value of this asset plummeted, leaving Lehman with massive losses. Their desperate attempts to raise capital and sell assets failed, ultimately leading to the largest bankruptcy filing in American history. The once powerful investment bank became a cautionary tale, demonstrating the fragility of financial institutions built on a foundation of unsustainable risk. Next is employee fallout. A ripple effect of job losses. The collapse of Lehman Brothers had a devastating human cost. Thousands of employees lost their jobs, their careers uprooted in the wake of the company's demise. The ripple effect extended beyond Lehman, as the financial crisis triggered widespread job losses across the financial sector. This human impact added a layer of tragedy to the already bleak picture, highlighting the real-world consequences of financial turmoil on everyday life. The last one is the long shadow. The legacy of caution, the consequences of Lehman Brothers collapse continue to be felt today. The company's demise served as a wake-up call for regulators and policymakers, leading to stricter financial regulation aimed at preventing similar crises from happening again. The shadow of Lehman casts a long while, reminding the financial world of the importance of responsible risk management and the dangers of unchecked ambition. Okay, now we move to the board of directors. The first one is loss of reputation, tarnished names, and public scrutiny. The most immediate consequences for the board of directors was a severe blow to their reputations. Lehman Brothers, once a symbol of financial stability, became synonymous with reckless risk-taking. The board responsible for guiding the company became the target of public outrage and accusation of negligence. Investigation and lawsuits cast a harsh spotlight on their actions, raising questions about their oversights and ability to fulfill their fiduciary duties. Okay, next is career impact. Difficulty securing future board positions. The tarnished reputation associated with Lehman could have significantly impacted the board members' ability to secure future board positions. Companies became more cautious about appointing directors with a track record of presiding over such a colossal failure. Their careers in the financial world were likely tarnished, with many facing an uphill battle to regain trust and credibility. Okay, the last one is financial consequences, potential for litigation and loss of compensations. While the board members themselves weren't directly responsible for Lehman's debts, they faced potential financial repercussions. Lawsuits from shareholders and investors alleging mismanagement could have resulted in significant financial penalties. Additionally, some board members might have lost performance-based compensation tied to the company's financial performance. Okay, now we move to the shareholders. The first one is complete loss of investment by our portfolios. The most immediate and devastating consequences for shareholders was the complete loss of their investment. Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy, meaning its stock became worthless. Shareholders who had placed their trust and potentially their life savings in the company saw their portfolios wiped out overnight. This financial loss could have shattered retirement plans, college funds, and overall financial security for many investors. Next is limited legal options. Difficulty recovering losses. Unfortunately, legal options for shareholders to recover their losses were limited. Lehman filed for bankruptcy, and bankruptcy proceedings prioritized creditors over shareholders. While some shareholders might have participated in class action lawsuits against the company or its auditors, the success of such suits is often limited, and any potential recoveries are usually minimal compared to the initial losses. The last one is erosion of trust, a broken covenant between company and investor. The collapse of Lehman Brothers eroded trust between companies and investors. Shareholders felt betrayed by the company they had entrusted with their capital. The lack of transparency and the aggressive risk-taking strategies that led to the downfall shattered the faith investors had in the company's leadership. This erosion of trust made investors more cautious and skeptical, impacting the overall market sentiment.
So, Assalamualaikum everyone, my name is Shafina. So, next I will continue with the conclusion for Lehman Brothers cases. So, here are some key conclusions drawn from the Lehman Brothers collapse. So, the first one is risky investment. So, Lehman Brothers heavily invested in a complex financial instruments called mortgage-backed security (MBS), which became nearly worthless when the housing market crashed. This highlights the danger of excessive risk-taking in financial institutions. So for the second one is accounting practice. So the bank was accused of using accounting tricks to hide the true extent of its debts. This emphasized the need for transparency and robust financial reporting standards. For the third one is regulation and oversight. Regulatory bodies were criticized for failing to adequately supervise Lehman's activities. This led to call for stricter regulation on investment, bank, and the financial sector as a whole. So the next one is system risk. So the Lehman collapse triggered a global financial crisis, demonstrating the interconnections of the financial systems. This underscored the importance of considering system risk in financial regulations. So the last but not least is corporate culture. Some argue that Lehman culture fosters excessive risk-taking and a focus on a short-term profit over long-term stability. This highlights the importance of building a responsible and ethical corporate culture. So there are just some of the major conclusions drawn from the Lehman Brothers cases. The collapse served as a cautionary tale about the danger of excessive risk-taking, opaque accounting practice, and lax regulation in the financial sector. So the lesson that we can learn from the Lehman Brothers cases is the Lehman Brothers story is a stark reminder that unchecked risk-taking lead to disaster. Their overexposure to the volatile housing market via complex financial instruments was disastrous when the bubble burst. This emphasized the significance of deliberate, responsible risk management. Financial decisions necessitate a balanced approach, carefully weighing potential rewards against the real possibility of loss. Quick profits are alluring, but long-term success requires a focus on stability and risk management. So that's all from us. Thank you very much.